that now there's media saying Israel is preparing to attack Iran. Okay. Now, knowing full well that China is Iran's biggest trading partner, Russia is arming on with Iran on this. What is China's take on that?
That means when Iran finally detonate that nuclear weapon test, China will just say, "Oh, we're concerned." I mean, that's what it means. And China is one of the largest purchaser of Iranian energy, oil and gas.
Right.
This is another thing that United States really hates. But Trump said we're gonna levy sanction against anybody who purchase Iranian oil. Well,
That's
the
where I was
largest
going.
purchaser
Yep.
of Iranian oil is China. Well,
Yep.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to increase the tariff back to like 145% of China? We're going to go back to what happened last month. I mean, this is silly. So like Trump really doesn't have too much card in this. So China will continue to buy Iranian energy no matter what. And there's nothing U.S. can do about it. And some of that oil can be transported now through the rail link, So they're kind of outside the reach of U.S. Navy, And I know, like, I don't think even Israel wants to mess with that. Israel has threatened to strike Iran's nuclear site, but I don't think Israel at this point want to particularly antagonize China by bombing this rail link. We also know from experience of Russia sanction and Cuba sanction to know that trade sanction doesn't really work. The Western sanction on Russia totally backfired. For China wants to build as much connectivity to everybody as possible. That includes to Iran. And, China right now is by one of the main backer of Iran, by the very fact that China is the largest purchaser of Iranian oil and gas, despite the U.S. objection.
I'm glad you bring up Iran, because I was going to get to that one also. So, for one, I don't believe Iran is a rogue actor. I'm sorry, that Israel is a rogue actor. I don't think they do anything without U.S. permission, especially from the standpoint of attacks. There is this shum that has been put in the U.S. media that there is a distance between the U.S. and Israel, and that Donald Trump doesn't like Netanyahu, and that there's a split. And as I keep telling people, that split and that distance is only to give space for Israel to do what it's doing without the U.S. getting heat from it, despite the fact that everybody knows that the U.S. effectively backs Israel to the hilt. Iran it's the same thing, right? That now there's media saying Israel is preparing to attack Iran. Okay. Now, knowing full well that China is Iran's biggest trading partner, Russia is arming on with Iran on this. What is China's take on this? I mean, obviously, they're not going to like it, but is it just, hey, we don't like you doing this, and that's the end of it? Like, they are going after, as you point out, one of their biggest trading partners in relation to energy, a country that needs energy, especially if it's manufacturing everything else, and it needs it at a decent price. It's able to get it from Iran against U.S. objections, and now even against attacks at this point by Israel. What is China's take on this?
What would that mean? That means when Iran finally detonate that nuclear weapon test, China will just say, "Oh, we're concerned." I mean, that's what it means. Like, China is not going to go out and blame Iran for conducting a nuclear test. China will at most say, "Oh, we're a little bit concerned about this."
That's unfortunate that they've decided
because
to do
right
that.
now this is what they're forcing Iran to do. Like the whole Israel is going to attack Iran. This is just part of Trump's negotiation tactic, right? Trump wrote about this in The Art of Deal, and we're going to make crazy demands, make it so crazy that they will end up accepting what our original demand was. So Iran is not going to back down on this, and certainly not in the face of threat from Israel. And what is going to end up happening is pushing Iran even closer to be a fully declared nuclear power. I saw a post on X. Somebody pointed out before Trump first term before Trump tore up the nuclear agreement. And at that point, Iran has about 3.3% of refined
Enrichment.
uranium.
Yeah.
They're only like they only had enrichment 3%. Now they're more like 60%.
Yes.
They're getting closer to getting that bomb, and everything pointing out that they really should get the bomb, because look at North Korea. United States is not bothering North Korea right now because North Korea has a bomb. Nobody is threatening to bomb Pyongyang at this point, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if Iran has a bomb, Israel would have to think twice about carrying out a strike against the Iran nuclear facility. So I think at this point, where Iran will probably get the bomb. We're just looking at what the timeline is. When we're talking about when, not if now. And there's not much U.S. can do about it. U.S. can bluff, but at end of the day, I don't think they're going to be serious about going to war against Iran, because we saw what happened when United States went to war against Yemen. A country without air force and air defense, and U.S. Navy lost 3 F-18 jets, right? Yep. And how are they going to expect to take on Iran? I mean, that's just foolhardy. So I don't believe that's in the cards.
So you think it's a bluff?
I think Trump is playing hardball, and I think he's gonna it's gonna blow up in his face, because just like how Trump trying to play hardball on the tariff war with against China. Guess what happened? He just backtracked on his threat to levy 50% tariff on EU again. Like first he said, "Oh, we're gonna slap 50% of tariff on EU," and then a couple of days later he's like, "Well, okay, we'll put an extension. We'll give them 90 days extension." So basically, we're back to square one. Who can deal with this guy? Like, how can anybody take this guy's word seriously? He literally just changes his policy every 2 or 3 days. He got tweet, and how can you make a deal with such a guy? He's a guy that originally tore the nuclear agreement with Iran. How is Iran gonna trust United States now that even if Trump agreed to this deal and stick with it, which is a big if, how would Iran know the next U.S. president won't just tore up the deal like what Trump did? So
but that's just it. Trump's not offering the deal. Like, what Trump is offering is a red line for Iran. Like, Iran is, they said in the very beginning, this is a red line. And Trump immediately went to the red line and is like, we need you to go beyond your red line, in which case they said, F off. And he's like, all right, but we're going to attack you. See, this is the difference between the sanction war, though. The sanction war, he's dealing with China, a country he respects, regardless of what he says. He still respects Xi Jinping. It's a power center. Even in Russia, he respects Putin. It's a power center. He may complain, oh my God, I can't believe Putin killed these people. Yeah, but all things being equal, one-on-one, mano a mano, you know that you can't test him in this way. Iran is different in the way that I think Trump perceives them.
Well, that's because...
One last thing. The people
you're right. You're right. That's because Iran doesn't have bomb. That's Iran doesn't have the bomb yet. If Iran have the bomb, Trump will have to respect them. I mean, so this is why all logic points to Iran should get the bomb, sooner rather than later. And once they have that, they can you don't have to deal with the U.S. pestering, just like Kim Jong-un is not dealing with the U.S. pestering right now. So yeah, there's that. And if you look at the U.S. policy right now, they say they respect Russia, they say they respect China, but United States still providing weapons to Ukraine. They're still shipping missiles to Ukraine. And this is from Donald Trump, the guy who said he will stop the war in 24 hours, after he becomes the president. He said he will stop in 24 hours. and now he was in front of the camera said, oh, I'm very upset with Putin because they're launching missile at Kiev. It's like, what do you expect? You can stop the war this minute, just one phone call to Zelensky, say we are stopping all weapons and ammunitions, because they're spending a lot of weapons and ammunition at the front. There's no way Ukraine can carry on this fight without the weapons and ammunition NATO and US provide them. Stop the ammunition. He can't literally stop the war in 24 hours. He chose not to. And same thing with China. He said, okay, yeah, I respect China. We still want to trade. And then right after they reached the agreement to pause, do a 90 days pause on the retaliatory tariff, guess what Trump did? Trump slapped new AI restriction on China. They banned NVIDIA. So NVIDIA was banned from selling their top of the line AI chips to China. So NVIDIA didn't like that because China is their main customer. So they come up with the idea to sell this newer version of chip, just especially made to China, called H20. And now Trump says, no, you can't even sell that to China. You can't even sell this like watered down version of AI chips to China. And this is why Jensen Huang went to China immediately after that, because Jensen Huang thought, holy shit, we're going to lose our largest market. And now Huawei is coming out with their own AI chips, which is just as good. And you know what? The other Chinese companies don't have any choice because they can't get NVIDIA chips, so they're going to have to use Huawei chips. And what Trump did? Trump said, okay, we are going to sanction anybody who uses Huawei chips. And he said anyone who uses a Huawei chip will violate U.S. export control. Now, okay, when he say anyone, he means anyone. That means if a Chinese company
anywhere around the world
doing business in China, Chinese company doing business in China, if they use a Huawei chip, they will be violating U.S. export control laws.
Isn't that amazing?
And then they will be placed on U.S. sanctions. But a lot of the Chinese companies like, forget it, we're under all kind of sanction right now anyway, and we can't get the NVIDIA chip. What do you expect us to do? We're gonna go with Huawei.
Carl Jha, man, always appreciate you joining me, man. I love these conversations. Carl Jha, he's the host Silk and Steel podcast. He also is on YouTube under Carl Jha. Definitely check him out on that too. Focused on China, surrounding regions, their history, culture, and politics. You can follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Jha. You can follow his podcast at Steel Silk In, and subscribe to support their podcast at patreon.com, Silk and Steel. And definitely check out his podcast, because as you point out, you go through historical events like week by week over Chinese history going back, 4,000 years?
I'm at 400 BC right now.
Wow. That is mind-blowing, right? I remember watching this thing, and I'm going to let you go, but I remember watching this thing on Britain for 1,000 years of history, and they're starting off like at the very beginning and moving on, and after a while, you're like, okay, wow, this is impressive. And then you multiply that by 4 times. It's hard to wrap your head around. It's just astonishing. Thank you, my man. You be safe, okay, Carl? Thank you for this.
Anytime.
All right.